I was really jazzed that they sent it to me, and it's laugh out loud funny.
For over 25 years, The Big Lebowski has been the subject of endless debate. A 1998 crime comedy film that follows the life of Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski, a Los Angeles slacker and avid bowler who gets assaulted as a result of mistaken identity, then learns that a millionaire also named Jeffrey Lebowski was the intended victim. Fans have dissected every frame, every line of dialogue, every dream sequence, looking for hidden meaning in this deliberately confusing mystery. Was Bunny kidnapped? Was there ever any money in that briefcase? What was happening in this story? The Coen Brothers didn't just create an unsolvable mystery because their genius is playing with narrative structure. They made an unsolvable mystery because the characters are all trying to solve one that was never real to begin with. By understanding the film's actual design, you'll finally have an answer to a question that's been asked for over 2 decades. What was this movie actually about? Let's find out from what the cast revealed. The story behind The Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski is a 1998 crime comedy film made by Joel and Ethan Coen. It stars Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Julianne Moore, Steve Buscemi, David Huddleston, and John Turturro. The film follows Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski, a laid-back man in Los Angeles who loves bowling. However, his life takes a strange turn when he is attacked by strangers who mistake him for a wealthy millionaire with the same name. Although the film is popular today, it was not a success when it was first released. When it comes to how the whole movie is put together, the Coen brothers were inspired by Raymond Chandler's detective stories. Ethan explained they wanted something that felt like a modern Raymond Chandler story, which is precisely why they had to set it in Los Angeles. They wanted the story to flow like a Chandler book does, moving through different parts of town and showing different social classes. The narrator's voice you hear throughout the movie also came from Chandler. In the Chandler movie adaptations, it's usually the main character doing the voiceover. Joel explained that the movie narrator is a lot like someone commenting on everything from an all-seeing point of view, as if he were rediscovering the earthy style of Mark Twain all over again. The bowling culture thing, too, was essential to Joel. He explained that it reflected that specific period at the end of the 50s and beginning of the 60s, and this fit perfectly with the retro feel they were going for in the movie. The Coen brothers wrote The Big Lebowski around the same time they wrote Barton Fink. However, when it was time for filming, John Goodman was busy shooting episodes of Roseanne, and Jeff Bridges was making a Walter Hill movie called Wild Bill. So the Coens decided to make Fargo instead while they waited. According to Ethan, the whole movie was built around the relationship between the dude and Walter. That relationship came from the scenes between Barton Fink and Charlie Meadows in their earlier film. According to the movie producers, Pete Exline told them about this incident with homework in a baggie, and the Coens thought it looked so much like a Raymond Chandler situation. So they decided to weave elements of Chandler's fiction into their script. Joel Coen even revealed that Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye was a significant influence on their film. When they started writing, the Coens wrote about 40 pages and then let it sit for a while before finishing, which is totally normal for them, as they would often hit a problem at a particular stage, switch to another project, then come back to the first script later. That way, they are already collecting pieces for several future movies at once. There was this one scene they thought had too much exposition and felt too heavy, so they added a character late in the writing process. That character was Knox Harrington, the effete art world hanger-on. In the original script, the dude was supposed to drive a Chrysler LeBaron because that's what Dowd had owned in real life. However, when they started filming, the car wasn't big enough to fit John Goodman, so they had to switch to a Ford Torino. The script was funny. The actors revealed that the script made them laugh. When Jeff Bridges first read it, he found it very funny right away. Some lines, like human paraquat, were added during filming, but most of what we see on screen came straight from what the Coen brothers wrote. Many people asked if the actors were making up their own lines, but that did not happen. The Coen brothers wanted to take a detective story and introduce an unusual character, so instead of a tough private eye, They wrote about someone who smokes pot and bowls. As a result, people often think the movie is full of improvisation. But as you already know, most of the dialogue came from the written script. During rehearsal, the actors worked on scenes for 2 weeks, but once filming started, they stuck to the script. When Jeff Bridges discussed this process, he said the script felt like improvisation on the page. However, when shooting began, hitting the right words in the right way became very important. He compared it to music, saying that each word had its place, just as each note in a song does. Finding the emotional heart.
And as I'm reading it, I thought, how am I going to tell Joel and Ethan that I don't?
During the interview with Today, Stephen Vincent Buscemi admitted something important about reading the character of Donnie. At first, he felt confused. He thought, why does Walter bully him all the time? He almost told the directors he did not want to do it, but then he read the last scene. That is when he realized that Walter genuinely loved Donnie. They were like brothers, and the actor found this very moving. This discovery changed how he played the part. Instead of just a silly character being bullied, Donnie became someone Walter deeply cared about. Jeff Bridges also explained that years after the film came out, a fan approached him with a theory that would blow your mind. This fan had watched the movie countless times and noticed something odd. What if one character did not exist? What if he was just in another character's head, like a ghost of a dead friend that only one person could see?
Guys, there was a fan that came up to me and says,
Jeff listened to this theory, thought about it, and said, you know what? That's actually interesting. The theory had merit. Examine the character's role in each scene. He rarely initiates anything. He mostly responds. So when Walter talks to him, maybe he is just talking to himself. Funny moments on set.
And he gets knocked in the testicles with a bowling ball or something, and he just remember that? Just crawled on the ground.
The actors shared stories about strange things that happened while filming. In one scene, an actor bit another actor's ear. There was also a moment with a musician who got hit by a bowling ball. He fell and rolled around for several minutes. The directors thought this moment was so funny and decided to use it in the movie trailer. Despite the movie not selling well later, everyone who worked on it had fun. This matters more than people realize. You can feel when a cast and crew genuinely like each other because that energy gets captured on film, and even the audience can sense when people are just going through motions. They can also sense when a group of people believes in what they are making and truly enjoys the process. And that's what happened here. A record amount of bad words.
There are 275 F-bombs in the movie.
Is that right?
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. One particular curse word appears in this movie roughly 275 times. That is not a typo. At the time, this might have been a record for cinema. So, when television networks decided to air the film, they faced a genuine problem. How do you edit that much language out and still have a movie that works? This problem only had one solution. The sound team had to get creative during post-production, and they decided to record replacement dialogue. Actors had no other choice but to come back to the studio and record alternative words that could be looped in over the original takes. While some of the replacements were creative, some just felt awkward. People did not know what to make of it. Critics had real trouble understanding what kind of film The Big Lebowski was, mainly because the film did not fit into standard categories. It had elements of crime films and comedies, and it also featured profound and absurd moments. It was even compared to detective stories. The movie mixed genres in unusual ways, and critics could not put it in a box. And when critics cannot easily categorize something, they tend to be uncertain about it. At the end, that uncertainty becomes a bad review. Unkind reviews. Timing is everything in movies. The Big Lebowski came out after another very popular Coen Brothers film, Fargo. Fargo won awards, the audience loved it, and the theaters were even packed. So naturally, audiences and studios expected The Big Lebowski to do the same thing. Sadly, it did not, and that made the disappointment feel even worse. However, about 5 or 6 years after the film's release, something changed. College-age people started quoting it. These fans were different from regular movie fans. They had seen the film 10 times or more. Some had watched it 15 or 20 times, and they kept finding new perspectives they had missed earlier. Buddhist Philosophy and the Dude. Years after the film's release, Jeff Bridges sat next to a Zen Buddhist teacher at a dinner party. The teacher told him something surprising. In Buddhist circles, people considered the dude a Zen master because his main saying was, "The dude abides," which is very Buddhist in nature. This shocked Bridges. The filmmakers had not tried to make a Buddhist film. However, the character's way of living aligned with Buddhist ideas. Look at what the dude does. He does not fight against life. He accepts things as they come, and he values friendship and peace. This conversation later on led to the creation of a book about Buddhist ideas in the film. Over time, the movie became so crucial to people that they made it into a religion. This religion was eventually called Dudism. Dudism became a religion or philosophy inspired by the dude, the main character from The Big Lebowski. So instead of following traditional religions, some people chose to base their beliefs and way of life on this fictional character and the values he represents. The people who created Dudism took ideas from two different old sources and mixed them. The first idea comes from Taoism, an ancient Chinese philosophy from thousands of years ago. It was written by a guy named Laozi in a book called the Tao Te Ching, which revolves around going with the flow and not forcing things. The second idea comes from an ancient Greek philosopher named Epicurus, who lived a long time ago, around 2,300 years ago. Epicurus believed in enjoying life's simple pleasures and in living a relaxed life. The Coen Brothers took both of those old ideas and then dressed them up in the style of the dude from the movie. So Dudism is an ancient Eastern and Western philosophy, but presented the way the dude would show it, with his laid-back attitude and his style. Dudism has one main holy day that they celebrate every single year. This sacred day is called the Day of the Dude, and it happens on March 6th. They picked that date because that's the exact day The Big Lebowski movie was released in the United States. So instead of celebrating holidays like Easter or Christmas, Dudists commemorate the day their religion's main inspiration came out in theaters. Walter's military service. In the film, Walter claimed to be a Vietnam War veteran. The actor wondered if Walter was even telling the truth about his service. But did you know that the dude, Walter, and Donnie make an odd group? While the dude is relaxed and casual, Walter is intense and angry, and Donnie is the quiet guy who works with numbers. Yet they formed a bowling team together. The actors found this funny because these three men had nothing obvious in common. Moreover, to perfect the art of bowling, the filmmakers hired a bowling expert to teach the actors. This expert described bowling as a spiritual practice. He explained that before you even throw the ball, you have to prepare your mind, as the pins are either up or down before you let go. The bowling master who taught everyone had his journey. Working intensively with actors nearly wrecked his bowling career, so he had to take a year off to recover, although he was featured in some final parts of the film in which he throws a bowling strike. Behind the dude character. The character. The dude from The Big Lebowski wasn't just made up out of thin air. The Coen Brothers based him on a few people they knew, and their stories are pretty interesting. One of the main inspirations was a guy named Jeff Dowd. He was a film producer and activist who had quite a past. Back in the day, he was part of a group called the Seattle Seven. Later, Dowd left and moved to Los Angeles, where he began working as an independent film producer. He helped make films like Zebrahead, and at the time he was also into promoting movies. When the Coen Brothers were out there showing their first film, Blood Simple, that's when Dowd met them and became a significant influence on the character of the dude. Now, Dowd has had some wild moments since then. In 2009, he got into a heated situation with a movie critic named John Anderson at the Sundance Film Festival. Anderson wrote a negative review of a movie called Dirt, the movie, and unluckily for him, Dowd was working on selling that film. The two of them ran into each other at a restaurant, and things went south pretty quickly. Dowd started a food fight right there at the Yarrow Hotel restaurant. A couple of years later, in 2011, someone made a short documentary about Dowd that was 18 minutes long. A director named Jeff Feuerzig put it together, and it aired on USA Network as part of a series they were doing called Character. But there's more to the dude's origins than just Jeff Dowd. Another big piece of the puzzle was a Vietnam vet and friend of the Coen Brothers named Peter Exline. Exline lived in a rundown apartment, and he was genuinely attached to the one small rug he had because it pulled his whole room together. This is where the famous "tied the room together" phrase from the movie came from, and when Sonnenfeld introduced him to the Coen Brothers, they were raising money for their film, Blood Simple. The three of them became good friends, and that's when Exline started telling them all the stories from his life. One of those stories involved Exline's car getting stolen by a high school kid. He and his friend Louis Abernathy, who was also a Vietnam vet and later became a private investigator, eventually tracked down the kid and confronted him. Just like in the movie, the police had impounded Exline's car, and when they looked under the passenger seat, they found homework from an 8th grader. Abernathy somehow inspired the character of Walter in The Big Lebowski because of stories like this. Now, Exline was also in amateur softball leagues, but the Coen brothers switched when they were writing the film. They changed this hobby to bowling because they thought it was a better social sport where people could hang out, have a drink, smoke a cigarette, and just have very random conversations. The character of Walter also got shaped by another person the Coens knew. Milius then introduced the Coen brothers to one of his best friends, a guy named Jim Ganzer, who would become another source of inspiration for the dude. Ganzer and his crew were typical Malibu surfers, and interestingly enough, they also inspired some of the characters in Milius's film called Big Wednesday. So the dude wasn't based on just one person, but came together from all these different guys the Coens knew and the stories they had to tell. Character inspirations. Julianne Moore admitted her character Maud was based on two people. One was an artist named Carol A. Schneemann who worked nude while swinging from a swing, and the other was Yoko Ono. On the other hand was Jesus Quintana, the bowling opponent who goes up against the dude's team. The Coen brothers got the idea for him after watching John Turturro perform in a play in the year 1988. The play was called Mi Puta Vida and was performed at the Public Theater. In that play, Turturro played this pederast-type character, and the Coens thought it was the perfect fit. Joel even admitted they thought of making Turturro a pederast in the movie because it would be something he could sink his teeth into and run with. Casting the dude. When the Coen brothers were writing The Big Lebowski, they wrote the parts specifically for John Goodman and Steve Buscemi. But here's the thing. They didn't know who was going to play Jeff Bridges' role at that point. The Coens initially thought about Mel Gibson for the dude, but he didn't take their pitch too seriously. Jeff Bridges eventually got the role, however, he was initially hesitant. He worried that it would be a bad example for his daughters. After a meeting, convinced him to take the role. Once Bridges decided to do it, he earnestly prepared for the part. He met with Jeff Dowd, the guy who inspired the character. Bridges also admitted that he drew heavily on his life in the 60s and 70s. To confidently achieve this, he lived in a bit of a place like the dude's and engaged in substance use, and just picked out clothes he thought the dude might wear. Bridges also adopted the same way of moving that Dowd had, including the slouching and that ample belly. Filming location. The actual filming for The Big Lebowski lasted 11 weeks, and they shot in various locations in and around Los Angeles. All the bowling footage was filmed at Hollywood Star Lanes, and it took 3 weeks. The dude's dream scenes with all the dancing were shot in an old airplane hangar that they had converted. Then, for the scenes at Jackie Treehorn's house, they used the Sheets Goldstein residence, which John Lautner designed and built back in 1963 up in the Hollywood Hills. How they filmed different scenes. Deakins, the cameraman, talked about how the dream scenes needed to look clean and sharp, with plenty of light so everything stayed in focus. But then, when you look at the dude's apartment, Deakins said it looked dirty, and the light was pretty ugly, so it had a rough look. What tied these two different looks together was how he shot the night scenes. Instead of using the normal blue light you see in most movies for moonlight or street lamps, he went with an orange glow like you would see from sodium lights. The Coen brothers also used wide-angle lenses for much of the movie because Joel said it helped them keep things in focus better and made the camera movements feel more exciting. Now here's something really cool. According to Ethan, to show what it looks like inside a bowling ball rolling down the lane, to achieve this they also used computer effects to show the view from the thumb hole inside the bowling ball. The festival that celebrates the movie after The Big Lebowski was released, a yearly event called Lebowski Fest, started in Louisville, Kentucky, in the year 2002. About 150 fans showed up to the first one, and since then, it has gained traction and spread to other cities too. This event happens every year, and it's a night where you can bowl as much as you want. Some contests involve dressing up in costumes, answering questions about the movie, and awarding prizes to the person with the hardest trip or the person who came from the farthest place. The event happens over a weekend, and there's usually a party with bands playing the night before the bowling. Then there's also an all-day party outside with more bands, people selling things at stands, and games to play. Some of the actors from the movie have come to these events over the years, and Jeff Bridges even showed up at the one in Los Angeles. Over in Britain, they have their own version inspired by Lebowski Fest. They call it The Dude Abides, and it happens in London. The philosophy book about the Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski and Philosophy Keeping Your Mind Limber with Abiding Wisdom was published by Wiley in 2012, and it was edited by Peter S. Fossil, with William Irwin as series editor. The book has 18 essays by different writers and runs about 304 pages. The book is also part of the Blackwell Philosophy and Pop Culture series, which pairs classic philosophy with films and TV shows people love, aiming to make complex ideas easier to see. The essays draw on many big thinkers to explain the movie and examine themes such as nihilism, war and politics, money and materialism, idealism and morality, and friendship. For example, there are chapters titled What Would the Dude Do?, Deconstructing the Dude, The Big Lebowski and Mathematical Logic, The Dude Abides but Does He Flourish?, and Man Down, Aristotle, Epicurus, and the Dude on Friendship and Solidarity. These chapter examples demonstrate how the book links the film to Plato, Aristotle, Epicurus, Nietzsche, Camus, Sartre, Kant, Derrida, Gödel, Freud, and Wittgenstein. The essays also ask whether abiding is a true virtue, whether the dude fits ideas from Taoism or Buddhism, and whether simple acts like bowling can push back against despair and meaninglessness. These questions help readers see the film as more than a comedy, and so the book treats the dude as an unlikely moral guide who tries to live the good life despite many setbacks. The book is available in paper, ebook, and audiobook editions, with an audio version narrated by Darren Stevens also available. The hope for a sequel for years. Fans of The Big Lebowski have hoped to see the dude return in a new movie. However, in a recent interview with Variety, directors Joel and Ethan Coen made it clear there will be no sequel. But this time, Joel simply said, "I don't think we'll do it." They were also asked if they would make a spin-off about Jesus Quintana, the memorable character played by John Turturro. Nevertheless, Ethan Coen firmly replied, "No." However, there is one movie they could return to. Ethan explained that they have thought about making a sequel to Barton Fink, their 1991 film about a playwright in Hollywood. He explained it would show Turturro's character living in Berkeley during the 1960s. Joel also added that they even have a title in mind, Old Fink. But they want to wait until John Turturro is much older to make it. And as Joel joked, he's getting there. Hidden messages. The Big Lebowski has been studied and explained in many different ways, especially by writers and scholars. People often use film to discuss society, politics, and culture. For example, in 2008, Slate published an article arguing that the movie could be seen as a political message. According to this view, the character Walter Sobchak represents a neoconservative mindset. This is because he often mentions President George H.W. Bush and the Gulf War. Walter's angry and reckless behavior, which always causes problems, is seen as a symbol of how some believe neoconservative politics lead to disaster. Another writer, Brian Wall, used the film to discuss Karl Marx's concept of commodity fetishism, which describes how social relationships between people are obscured in capitalist societies, making it seem as if relationships between commodities are more significant and attributing value to commodities independent of the labor that produced them. Instead of chasing money and success, like the characters in Jerry Maguire or Forrest Gump, the dude represents a calmer life with no pressure to profit or achieve. Overall, the movie has been interpreted in many profound ways. Some say it is a playful but sharp critique of society, a reflection on war and moral choices, a story about media, power, and American militarism. Nevertheless, what makes The Big Lebowski unique is that people can watch it for laughs while still finding deeper meanings beneath the humor. Julianne Moore's process of filming.
And he gets knocked in the testicles with a bowling ball or something, and he just like, remember that? Just crawl on the ground.
Julianne Moore talks about working with the Coen Brothers and describes it as a unique experience. She explains that every director has their own style, but the Coens are very detailed and precise. Because they come prepared, it becomes easy for actors to bring their ideas. She found the environment calm and supportive. However, she also admits she was very nervous at first because she had admired their work for so long. She also had far more dialogue in this film than usual. Nevertheless, she believes that with time and experience, actors build a history. Eventually, people stop judging by appearance and start trusting the work they have already done. She says it helps when directors can look at past performances rather than just a first impression. Discussing her role in the film, especially the famous Busby Berkeley-style dance number, Julianne says it was a lot of fun, but she sometimes felt silly. She was dressed in a big Valkyrie costume, holding a trident, while dancing among professionals in funny outfits. However, Joel and Ethan Coen told her that the more amusing and more awkward she looked, the better it would work for the scene, which made her feel more relaxed. Becoming a cult classic. When The Big Lebowski was released in 1998, it flopped. Nobody caught on to its plot style, slow pace, and offbeat sense of humor. However, over time, the movie caught a second wind. People began to watch it repeatedly, quote its lines, copy its style, and raise a glass to its laid-back sensibility. A movie that was once a box office flop eventually became one of the most beloved cult classics. Entertainment Weekly ultimately recognized just how humorous and offbeat the film was. The publication ranked it 8th on their list of funniest movies of the last 25 years. But that wasn't where the film's impact ended. Entertainment Weekly also listed The Big Lebowski at number 15 on their The Cult 25, the essential left-field movie hits since '83 list. In another poll conducted by the same publication, they listed The Dude, played by Jeff Bridges, at number 14 in their list of most fantastic movie characters of the past 20 years, showing how popular the character had become. The movie further received international acclaim. The Big Lebowski was also nominated for the Grand Prix by the Belgian Film Critics Association, a well-known European film award. The Big Lebowski was also voted as the 10th most excellent film set in Los Angeles by the writers and editors of the Los Angeles Times over the last 25 years. They specified what every movie on the list had to reveal precisely about living in Los Angeles, and one excellent film per director would be selected. This suggests just how well the Coen brothers captured what living in the city looked like. Empire magazine, the other major film magazine, also praised the film's characters. They ranked Walter Sobchak, played by John Goodman, at number 49 and The Dude at number 7 on their The 100 Greatest Movie Characters list. That meant both characters had broken free of the constraints of time, symbols of friendship and chaos. Even aging film critic Roger Ebert, who was hesitant about the film when it was first released, changed his mind. In March 2010, he added The Big Lebowski to his great movies list and declared that it had gained depth and complexity since its initial release. Analosimus Big Lebowski and Analosimus Dude, after the movie and its protagonist. In 2007, scientists named an extinct tree species, Lebowskia grandifolia, from fossils unearthed 270 million years ago in Texas. This strange acknowledgement showed how the film's spirit extended beyond the film into science and culture. Universal Pictures has also maintained the film in circulation with new releases. The studio released The Big Lebowski on Blu-ray on August 16, 2011. The limited release featured a photo book by Jeff Bridges, a 10 years later featurette, and a special behind-the-scenes look at the annual Lebowski Fest, an official fan festival where fans gather to celebrate the movie, bowl, and dress up like the Dude. The Blu-ray was part of the UK edition of the Coen Brothers box set. Though made for the UK, the Blu-ray was region-free, meaning fans from around the globe could play it on any Blu-ray player. To commemorate the film's 20th anniversary, Universal Pictures released a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray version on October 16, 2018. The version had enhanced visual and audio quality, enabling enthusiasts to view the film in a better version. The Big Lebowski, despite all these years, has not only shed its original misconceptions, but also emerged as the most popular and widely interpreted movie of its time. So there you have it. All these little things about The Big Lebowski that most people never knew were happening behind the scenes. From Jeff Bridges pulling clothes out of his own closet to play the dude, to the Coen Brothers mounting a camera on something like a barbecue spit just to show what a bowling ball sees. This movie was made with so much care and creativity that you might not notice it at first. And even though fans have been asking for a sequel for years, the Coen Brothers are sticking to their guns and saying no. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel.